Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel tonight. Russia is facing a convergence of pressures that few in the Kremlin openly acknowledge. Crimea is struggling with severe shortages of water and gasoline, while public frustration is becoming visible on the streets of St. Petersburg. These are not isolated events. Together, they reflect deeper structural strains inside a country under prolonged military, economic, and social stress. Russia on the brink is not a slogan here. It is a description of a system being tested simultaneously at its periphery and at its core. To understand what is happening now, we need to look carefully at Crimea's resource crisis, the logistical realities behind it, and why unrest in Russia's second largest city matters far beyond symbolic protest. Crimea's water problem did not begin this year. Since 2014, when Russia annexed the peninsula, access to fresh water has been one of its most serious vulnerabilities. For decades, Crimea depended on the North Crimean Canal, which brought water from the Dnipro River. After 2014, Ukraine blocked the canal, cutting off the primary source of irrigation and drinking water for millions of people. Russia responded by drilling wells, building reservoirs, and later reopening the canal briefly during the early phase of the full-scale war. But these solutions were never permanent. Today, the situation has worsened again. Reservoir levels are critically low. Groundwater extraction has increased salinity, and aging infrastructure struggles to meet basic demand. Local authorities have introduced rationing in some areas, quietly at first, then more openly as shortages became impossible to hide. For ordinary residents, this means restricted water hours, unreliable supply, and growing concern about long-term viability. Water shortages are not just a humanitarian issue. They affect agriculture, industry, and military operations. Crimea hosts major Russian naval and air facilities. Maintaining these bases requires stable utilities, fuel, and transport links. When water becomes scarce, every other system becomes harder to sustain. Gasoline shortages add another layer to the crisis. Crimea relies heavily on supply routes from mainland Russia, including the Kerch Bridge and maritime transport. These routes have faced repeated disruptions over the past 2 years due to security incidents, maintenance issues, and heightened inspections. Fuel depots and logistics hubs operate under constant pressure, and even short interruptions ripple quickly through the local economy. In recent weeks, residents have reported long lines at fuel stations, purchase limits, and sudden closures. Official explanations often cite technical issues or temporary distribution problems. But taken together with water shortages, the picture points to a deeper logistical strain, not a momentary inconvenience. For civilians, the impact is immediate. Transportation becomes unreliable, prices rise, emergency services face delays. For businesses, especially small ones, operating costs climb while revenue falls. For the military, fuel scarcity complicates training, patrols, and readiness. Crimea, once presented as a showcase of Russian control, now reveals the costs of sustaining territory under contested conditions. While Crimea struggles with basic resources, attention has turned to St. Petersburg, a city often seen as politically calmer than Moscow, but deeply significant in Russian history and identity. Known as the birthplace of the current president and a cultural capital, St. Petersburg carries symbolic weight. When discontent appears there, it resonates nationwide. Protests in St. Petersburg have not taken the form of mass uprisings, but they are notable for their persistence and tone. Demonstrations over rising prices, military mobilization, housing, and public services have drawn citizens from different backgrounds. Some protests are small and quickly dispersed. Others take the form of silent marches, placards, or spontaneous gatherings. The messages are cautious but clear. Fatigue, frustration, and a sense that ordinary people are paying the price for decisions made far away. Authorities have responded with a familiar mix of policing and restraint. Large-scale force is avoided to prevent escalation, but arrests, fines and surveillance remain constant. State media coverage is minimal, often framing protests as isolated incidents or the work of provocateurs. Yet, social media and independent reporting show a broader pattern of dissatisfaction. What connects Crimea's shortages with protests in St. Petersburg is not coincidence, but pressure. Russia's war economy has reshaped priorities. Resources flow first to the military. Infrastructure spending is redirected. Social services face cuts or delays. Inflation erodes purchasing power, while sanctions complicate imports and investment. These effects are unevenly distributed, but no region is entirely insulated. In Crimea, the strain shows up as physical scarcity. In St. Petersburg, it appears as public expression. Both are symptoms of a system under stress, where maintaining control abroad competes with stability at home. The Kremlin's challenge is managing perception as much as reality. Official messaging emphasizes